The big announcement today from the Prime Minister Scott Morrison, following on from the US's similar announcement yesterday, is that we will have an official diplomatic boycott of the Beijing Winter Olympics, which begin in February. The decision by the US and Australia is a largely symbolic one, because China has been at pains to say, foreign officials weren't invited anyway. But the symbolism is important as the world finally begins to take a stance against the human rights abuses, the genocide, all those things we've heard and learnt about life under the Chinese Communist Party. However, the Australian government is still supporting the participation of athletes in the Games, which I think is a good thing, expected to be about 40 athletes. The announcement of the boycott today coincides with reports in Sydney's Daily Telegraph today that a Chinese cyber attack was recently thwarted on a Queensland power station, which would have sent 3 million homes into the dark. Joining me now to discuss this diplomatic boycott of the Games is the highly experienced Australian Sports Administrator and Chief Executive Officer of the Australian Olympic Committee, Matt Carroll. Matt, great to see you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Rowan. Yourself?
Yeah, good, mate. Listen, I think first, what are your thoughts on the boycott announced today?
Oh, look, the boycott, I think, as you announced there, it's a decision for the government, and we respect that, and it's their business. The way the system actually works, and the Chinese is correct as well, is that the IOC, they invite the National Olympic Committees around the world to send a team to the Games. Within that invitation, the National Olympic Committees can apply for accreditation for their head of state, head of government, sports minister. We had that conversation with the government a while back. Obviously, very busy, a lot of things on, as you could will appreciate. And so the invitation actually sort of comes through the IOC, through the National Olympic Committees to the government. We respect the government's decision. And our focus is the athletes and the competition, get them there safely, compete well, represent Australia well, and get them home safely.
I mean, I've been privileged, and most Australians have been privileged to either know or have seen how hard these athletes work to, years and years of their lives dedicated to whichever particular sport it is, and it's their entire life. So how are the athletes at the moment feeling? Are they relieved that it's not a sporting boycott? Does the boycott kind of mess up with their heads at all? How are the ones you've been talking to?
No, look, it doesn't. I mean, the government indicated months or a year ago, and so did the Labor Party to the opposition, that they were not supporting a boycott of the sport, of the Olympic Games, by the athletes. So the athletes have been very focused, preparing for the Games. There are still quite a few to qualify. Those qualifiers are happening now as we speak, and even into early January. So they're very focused on that. It's not an easy Games to get to. The borders are still closed. Obviously, COVID is still an issue as well. But we're working our way through all of that, and that's where their focus is. The athletes, of course, have the right to make any comment about any humanitarian concerns at all. They're most welcome to do that. But their main focus at the moment is competing in the Games. So
that's a good point, Matt. Are there any athletes who are, have expressed reservations about going for those reasons, for example, because of the treatment of the Uyghurs, or because of the, threat to our industry and manufacturing, wine boycotts and so on? Have any athletes spoken to you about, being concerned whether they will or won't go to the Games?
No, they haven't spoken about being concerned about going to the Games. So certainly the athletes acknowledge the human rights issues, certainly do. The one thing the Games do, and obviously the fact we're having this conversation about it, is the Games shine a light on the country where they're being held. And I think that's a good thing. The same will happen in Paris, same will happen in LA, in Milan Cortina, and 10 good years in Brisbane. But now the athletes are very committed to the Games. It's about the sport. Sporting boycotts in the past have never worked. So it's about the sport. It's about bringing the world together in Beijing and celebrating all that's good about humanity. And that shines a light on issues which needs to be shone on, then so be it.
You're right to talk of the history of boycotts. I mean, we had Moscow and so on, and where athletes, many now say, well, they should have gone or they shouldn't. That's all for history. But There is a kind of, I guess, one glaring issue, which I'm keen to get your thoughts on, which is the Peng Shuai controversy. So this is the Chinese tennis player who's perhaps gone missing. It appears that she has gone missing, but there is, that's being denied by the Chinese. The International Olympic Committee has been criticised over its response to the disappearance of Peng Shuai, the tennis player. The Women's Tennis Association has announced they will stop playing in China until the matter is resolved. So should the IOC have been more vocal? What's your thoughts?
Well, the IOC have had two video meetings with Peng Shuai. And in that meeting was the President, Thomas Bach, and there was also one of the Chinese members of the International Olympic Committee's Executive Committee. So that communication has happened twice. There is criticism that has all the information come forward, but at least the IOC took the initiative. They're continuing to follow up again, I think, and they've shone a light very intensely on the issue, which is a good thing. So we'll just see how it passes through. I mean, I think that's a good thing, what they've done, the way they've gone about it. I mean, we're not interfering, sport shouldn't interfere in the politics of a country, but certainly should always highlight any issues, as I said before, shine a light on them, and that's what the IOC have done.
So, Matt, just finally, you packing your bags, getting ready to go to the freezing cold? And it's freezing cold in Sydney at the moment, so you won't need to change much.
No, you're right about that one. But no, yes, I am going. We're about, as you said in the introduction, about 40 athletes. So with coaches and others, it'll be just under 100 people. Myself and our Vice President, Ian Chesterman, will be attending the games, as long with John Coates in his two capacities as President of the AOC and Vice President of the IOC. And look, it'll be good games. It'll be good games for Australia. We've got opportunities and medals, obviously an opportunity. We might even have our first curling team going to these games, which is an opportunity.
Fantastic. Sounds like that film Cool Runnings. Do you remember that one?
That's right, exactly.
Listen, I hope you bring back a swag of gold, silver and bronze for us, Matt. Well, Australia's right behind you there. So thanks so much for coming on.
Everyone enjoyed the summer games. I'm sure they can enjoy the winters as well.
Fantastic. Matt Carroll, thanks so much from the Australian Olympic Committee.